Elegance is often just a mask for cruelty, and nowhere was that mask worn tighter than at the Velvet Room. You see, a $20 tip can buy a thank you, but $1 billion? That buys the truth. When a struggling waitress named Sierra was forced to her knees over a spilled glass of Merlot, she thought her life was over. She didn't know that the quiet, shabby old man in the corner wasn't just watching, he was keeping score. And he was about to teach a brutal manager and 2 entitled customers a lesson that money can't fix. This is the story of how the mighty fell. The air inside. The Velvet Room didn't smell like food. It smelled like money. It was a mixture of aged mahogany, fresh lilies imported from Holland, and the distinct, metallic tang of fear that radiated off the staff. Sierra Hughes adjusted the collar of her starch-stiff uniform, wincing as the cheap fabric dug into her neck. At 24, Sierra carried the weight of a woman twice her age. Her eyes, a soft hazel, were currently rimmed with the red fatigue of double shifts. She wasn't working for a vacation or a new purse. She was working for the dialysis treatments that kept her mother, Ellen, alive. Every plate she carried, every insult she swallowed, translated into 3 more days of life for the only person she had left in the world. Hughes. The snap of fingers was sharp, echoing off the marble floors like a pistol crack. Sierra flinched, turning toward the maitre d' station. Gavin Moretti stood there, checking his reflection in the polished brass of the reservation stand. Gavin was a man who believed the world was a stage, and he was the only director. He wore suits that were slightly too tight, trying to emphasize a physique he didn't have, and his hair was gelled into a helmet of immobility. He was the general manager of the Velvet Room, a position he wielded like a medieval sword. "Yes, Mr. Moretti?" Sierra asked, keeping her head lowered. Eye contact with Gavin was often interpreted as insubordination. "Table 4 is dirty," Gavin said, not looking at her. He was busy picking a piece of lint off his lapel. Sierra looked at table 4. It was pristine. The white tablecloth was blinding. The silverware was aligned with mathematical precision. "Sir?" "I just said it. I said it's dirty," Gavin hissed, finally turning his cold, shark-like eyes on her. "There is a smudge on the water glass." "A smudge, Hughes. Do you know who is coming in tonight? The Van der Hovens. Brock and Tiffany Van der Hoven. They own half the real estate in downtown Chicago. If they see a smudge, they don't see a mistake. They see incompetence. And if they see incompetence, they see me. And I will not have my reputation tarnished by a girl who buys her shoes at a discount outlet." He pointed at her scuffed black non-slip shoes. Sierra felt the heat rise in her cheeks. She couldn't afford new ones. Her mom's medication had gone up by $40 this month. "I'll fix it immediately, Mr. Moretti," Sierra whispered. "See that you do." "And Hughes?" Gavin stepped closer, his cologne and overpowering musk invading her personal space. "One mistake tonight. Just one, and you're out. I have a stack of resumes on my desk from girls who are prettier, faster, and less exhausted-looking than you." Sierra hurried to table 4, grabbing the water glass with a cloth napkin. Her hands were shaking. She polished the spotless glass until it squeaked, her heart hammering against her ribs. She couldn't lose this job. The tips at the Velvet Room were the only thing keeping the lights on at home. As she worked, the heavy oak doors swung open. The dinner rush was beginning. But tonight, the atmosphere felt different, heavier. An older man walked in first. He was alone. He wore a tweed jacket that had seen better days, with elbow patches that looked worn, and gray slacks that bagged at the knees. He leaned heavily on a wooden cane. He didn't look like the typical clientele of the Velvet Room. He looked like a grandfather who had gotten lost on his way to the library. Gavin, who had been preening near the door, took one look at the old man and sneered. He made a hand motion to the hostess, a young girl named Emily, signaling her to deal with the riffraff. "Table for one," the old man said, his voice gravelly but warm. "Name's Archer. Do you have a reservation?" Emily asked nervously, glancing at Gavin, who was glaring daggers at the old man's scuffed leather loafers. "No reservation," Archer said, smiling. "Just looking for a quiet soup and a glass of water." Gavin swooped in, his fake smile plastered on like a sticker. I'm afraid we are fully booked, sir. The diner down the street might be more your speed. Archer looked around the half-empty restaurant. Looks like plenty of tables to me, son. Gavin's jaw tightened at being called son. These are reserved for our VIPs. We have a dress code. I'm wearing a tie, Archer pointed out, pulling a knitted brown tie out from his jacket. Let him sit, a voice whispered. It was Sierra. She had walked past them to the kitchen and saw the interaction. She knew it was risky, but she saw the exhaustion in the old man's eyes, the same exhaustion she felt. Gavin spun around, furious. Excuse me? Table 12 is open, sir, Sierra said quickly. It's in the back corner. No one will see him. I'll take the table in addition to my section. It won't affect the service flow. Gavin looked at the old man, then at Sierra. He saw an opportunity. If the old man couldn't pay or caused a scene, he could fire Sierra with cause. Fine, Gavin spat. Put him in the corner, behind the pillar. If he makes a sound, Hughes, it's coming out of your paycheck. Sierra guided Archer to the small, secluded table. I'm sorry about that, sir, she murmured as she pulled out his chair. Archer looked at her, his blue eyes sharp and intelligent, contrasting with his frail appearance. Don't apologize for the blindness of others, my dear. What is your name? Sierra. Well, Sierra. I'm Archer. Just the potato leek soup and a water, please. I'll bring you some warm bread while you wait, she smiled. A real smile, the first one she'd managed all day. As she walked away, the front doors burst open. The volume in the room instantly doubled. Brock and Tiffany van der Hoven had arrived. If arrogance had a sound, it was Tiffany van der Hoven's laugh. It was a high-pitched, jagged sound that demanded everyone stop and look. She was draped in a white faux fur coat, despite it being mild outside, and enough gold jewelry to anchor a small boat. Her husband, Brock, was a large man with a red face and a suit that cost more than Sierra's entire apartment building. He was talking loudly on a cell phone, barking orders about liquidating assets. Gavin practically sprinted to the door, his posture changing from tyrant to servant in a split second. Mr. and Mrs. van der Hoven, Gavin gushed, bowing slightly. Welcome back to the Velvet Room. We have prepared the center banquette for you, the best seat in the house. It better be, Tiffany said, not looking at him. She scanned the room, her eyes landing critically on the decor. The lighting is too dim. I can barely see my diamonds sparkle. I will have it adjusted immediately, Gavin promised, sweating. Right this way. He led them to the center of the room. As they passed Archer's corner table, Tiffany wrinkled her nose. Why is there a hobo eating soup in here? She asked loudly. Archer didn't look up from his bowl, but his hand paused mid-spoon. He's leaving soon, Gavin assured her quickly. Just a charity case. We do our part for the community. Brock hung up his phone and sat down heavily. Bring me the wine list. The reserve list. I don't want the swill you serve the tourists. Of course. Mr. van der Hoven. Gavin snapped his fingers at Sierra, who was rushing past with a tray of appetizers for another table. Hughes. The reserve list. Now. And you will be serving this table. Sierra's stomach dropped. Serving the VIPs was usually reserved for the senior waiters, the ones Gavin liked. Giving her this table wasn't a promotion, it was a trap. He wanted her to fail under pressure. Yes, sir, Sierra said. She approached the table, presenting the leather-bound book. Good evening. Welcome to water, Brock interrupted, not looking up. Sparkling, with 3 limes, not 2, not 4, 3. And I want the lobster risotto, Tiffany said, tossing her menu onto the floor for Sierra to pick up. But tell the chef I don't want it creamy. I want it dry, but not dry. Moist, but no cream. If I see a drop of dairy, I'm sending it back. I believe the risotto is cooked with Parmesan and butter stock, ma'am, Sierra explained gently. It might be difficult too. Are you the chef? Tiffany snapped, her eyes narrowing. No, ma'am. Then don't tell me how to cook. Just bring me what I asked for. Sierra nodded, retrieving the menu from the floor. And for the wine? The Chateau Margaux 2015, Brock said, pointing a sausage-like finger at the list. And don't shake the bottle. I hate sediment. Sierra hurried to the bar. Her hands were trembling. A bottle of Chateau Margaux cost $1,200. If she dropped it, she would be paying for it for the next 6 months. From the corner table, Archer watched. He ate his soup slowly, his eyes tracking every movement in the dining room. He saw Gavin hovering near the bar, whispering to the bartender, watching Sierra with a predatory grin. He saw Tiffany taking selfies with the flash on, blinding the other diners. When Sierra returned with the wine, she performed the presentation perfectly. She showed the label, cut the foil, and uncorked it with a silent pop. She poured a taste for Brock. He swirled it, sniffed it, and took a sip. He made a show of thinking about it for a painfully long time. It's adequate. Pour. Sierra moved to Tiffany's side first, as was protocol. As she leaned in to pour the dark red liquid into the crystal glass, Tiffany suddenly threw her arm back to flag down Gavin. Gavin, the music is too. Tiffany's elbow connected hard with Sierra's wrist. The bottle slipped. Time seemed to slow down. Sierra tried to catch it, but the heavy glass bottle tumbled. It didn't break, but it bounced off the edge of the table, spinning wildly. A fountain of red wine, expensive, dark red wine, erupted into the air. It splashed across the pristine white tablecloth. It splattered onto the floor. And, most horrifically, a large arc of wine landed squarely on Tiffany van der Hoven's white faux fur coat. The dining room went silent. The music seemed to stop. Tiffany looked down at her coat. The red stain was spreading like a gunshot wound on the white fur. She let out a scream that shattered the atmosphere of the restaurant. "You idiot! You stupid, clumsy idiot!" Tiffany shrieked, jumping up. "I'm so sorry." Sierra gasped, grabbing a napkin and reaching out to help. "I didn't mean to. You hit my..." "Don't touch me." Tiffany slapped Sierra's hand away. "You've ruined it. This is a custom piece. It cost $5,000. Brock stood up, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. "Where is the manager? Get over here. Now." Gavin was already there. He looked at the wine, looked at the coat, and then looked at Sierra. His eyes weren't filled with panic. They were filled with triumph. This was it. "Mrs. van der Hoven, I am horrified," Gavin said, his voice dripping with faux concern. "Please, allow us to pay for the cleaning or the replacement." "I don't want your money," Tiffany yelled, pointing a manicured finger at Sierra. "I want her to pay for it, and I want her fired, right now." Sierra stood there, the empty tray clutched to her chest, tears welling in her eyes. "Mr. Moretti," she bumped my arm. I was pouring and she threw her arm back. "Silence," Gavin roared, turning on Sierra. "Do not blame the customer for your incompetence. I saw you. You were clumsy. You were careless." "I wasn't," Sierra's voice broke. "Get on your knees," Tiffany hissed. The room went deadly quiet again. "Excuse me?" Sierra whispered. "You heard me," Tiffany said, her eyes gleaming with malice. "The wine is on my shoes too. Manolo Blahniks, you made the mess. You clean it up. Right now, on your knees." Sierra looked at Gavin, pleading silently for help. Surely, this was too far. Surely, he wouldn't allow this humiliation. Gavin looked at the van der Hovens. He calculated their net worth against Sierra's dignity. The math was easy for him. "You heard the lady, Hughes," Gavin said coldly. "Clean up the mess." The silence in the velvet room was suffocating. Every diner had stopped eating. Forks hovered halfway to mouths. All eyes were on the center banquette. Sierra felt like the floor was tilting. The humiliation burned hotter than fire. "Mr. Moretti, please, I can get a mop. I can." "No mop," Brock sneered. "Use the napkins. I want to see you scrub." "Do it, Sierra," Gavin said, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Or, I will ensure you are blacklisted from every restaurant in this city. You'll never work in service again. Think about your mother." The mention of her mother was a dagger to the heart. Gavin knew. He knew about the medical bills. He was weaponizing her tragedy against her. Sierra's legs felt weak. She looked at the spilled wine soaking into the expensive rug. She looked at Tiffany's sneering face. If she walked out, she lost the insurance. She lost the paycheck. Her mother would suffer. Slowly, painfully, Sierra lowered herself. She sank to her knees on the hard floor. Tears finally spilled over, hot and fast, tracking through the light makeup she wore. She grabbed a handful of cloth napkins and began to dab at the puddle of wine near Tiffany's feet. Pathetic. Tiffany laughed, pulling her phone out. Wait, let me get this for my story. This is what happens when you don't have skills, people. She started recording. Miss a spot there, Brock said, nudging Sierra's shoulder with his foot. Sierra flinched. She was scrubbing the carpet, her head down, biting her lips so hard she tasted blood. She had become invisible to them as a human being. She was just a mechanism for their amusement. Louder, Tiffany said. Apologize. Say, I am a clumsy idiot who doesn't deserve to wait on you. Sierra stopped scrubbing. Her hands were stained red with the wine, looking like she had committed a murder. This was the bottom. This was the moment where the soul breaks. Say it, Gavin barked, looming over her. Enough. The word wasn't shouted, but it carried across the room with the weight of a gavel strike. Everyone turned. Archer was standing up at his corner table. He had placed his napkin neatly on the table. He picked up his cane and walked toward the center of the room. He didn't walk like a frail old man anymore. He walked with a strange, terrifying stability. Who invited the crypt keeper? Tiffany scoffed, still holding her phone up. Archer ignored her. He walked straight to Sierra. The sound of his cane tapping on the floor was the only noise in the room. He reached down, his hand steady. Stand up, child. Sierra looked up, her vision blurred with tears. I can't. I have to. You do not, Archer said softly. Stand up. Hey! Gavin stepped in front of Archer, puffing out his chest. Go back to your soup, old man. This is an internal staff matter. It doesn't concern you. It concerns me, Archer said, his voice cool and detached. Because I am trying to enjoy my dinner, and I find it difficult to digest my food while watching a labor violation and a human rights abuse happen 10 feet away. Listen, Grandpa. Brock stood up, towering over Archer. You don't know who we are. So why don't you sit down before I buy the retirement home you live in and evict you? Archer looked at Brock. He didn't look up. He looked through him. I know exactly who you are, Mr. Vanderhoven. You are a man who leverages debt to buy assets to impress people you don't like. And currently, you are a bully. Brock's face turned scarlet. He stepped forward, fists clenched. Gavin, Tiffany shrieked. Throw this trash out. He's ruining my night. Gavin grabbed Archer's arm. All right, that's it. You're leaving, now. And you're paying for the soup. Archer looked at Gavin's hand on his jacket. Remove your hand, Archer said. The tone was so authoritative, so utterly commanding, that Gavin instinctively let go. Sierra, Archer said, turning back to her. How much do you make here? Sierra had pulled herself up, wiping her eyes. $11 an hour plus tips, sir. And the medical insurance? It covers my mom's dialysis. Archer nodded. I see. That is the leverage. He turned to Gavin. You threaten a young woman's family to force her to degrade herself for the amusement of these tourists? Tourists? Tiffany gasped. We are VIPs. We are the elite of this city. You are children playing dress-up, Archer said dismissively. I'm calling the police, Gavin said, pulling out his phone. You are trespassing. And you, Hughes. You're fired. Get out. Both of you. She's fired? Archer asked. Terminated, immediately. For insubordination and causing a scene. Good, Archer said. A small, dry smile touched his lips. Because I can't hire her if she's already employed. Hire her? Brock laughed. A cruel, barking sound. To do what? Change your diapers? Archer reached into the inside pocket of his tattered tweed jacket. Gavin tensed, perhaps expecting a weapon. But Archer pulled out a wallet. It was old, worn leather. From it, he didn't pull cash. He pulled a single card. It wasn't a credit card. It was a business card. Heavy stock, embossed. He held it out to Gavin. "I believe you need to call the owner of this restaurant group," Archer said. Gavin sneered. "I know the owner. Mr. Sterling. I talk to him once a month." "Mr. Sterling is the CEO of the hospitality division," Archer corrected. "I'm talking about the man who owns the holding company that owns the bank that owns the hospitality division." Gavin looked at the card. His face went pale. All the blood drained from his cheeks, leaving him looking like a wax figure melting in the heat. The card read, Archer J. Galloway, Chairman, Galloway, Steel and Industrial, Proprietor. The Galloway Group. Gavin's hands started to shake. Everyone in the city, everyone in the country knew the name Galloway. Galloway Steel built the skyscrapers in Chicago. Galloway Shipping moved goods across the Atlantic. The Galloway Group owned half the luxury brands in the state, including, as it turned out, the parent company of the Velvet Room. The hobo in the corner was worth $40 billion. Mr. Galloway? Gavin squeaked. "That's me," Archer said, smoothing his tweed jacket. "And I believe, Gavin, that you are sitting in my chair." The business card sat in Gavin's hand like a piece of radioactive material. The name Archer J. Galloway didn't just command respect in the city, it commanded fear. It was a name associated with the skyline itself, with the steel skeletons of the buildings that housed the very people eating in this restaurant. Gavin looked from the card to the man in the tweed jacket. The discrepancy was impossible for his shallow mind to reconcile. Billionaires wore bespoke Italian silk. They wore Patek Philippe watches. They didn't wear shoes that looked like they had been purchased at a garage sale in 1998. "This is a joke," Gavin whispered, though his voice lacked conviction. He looked around, as if expecting a hidden camera crew to jump out. You printed this. Verify it," Archer said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming the voice of a man accustomed to boardrooms and hostile takeovers. "Go to your office. Google my face. Call the number on that card. It routes directly to my executive assistant, Margaret. She will be very interested to hear why the chairman is being threatened with arrest in his own establishment." Tiffany van der Hoven, however, was not a woman who let reality interfere with her worldview. To her, status was a visual language, and Archer looked like a pauper. Therefore, he was a pauper. "Oh, stop it," Tiffany screeched, stamping her foot. Her expensive heel crunched on a piece of broken glass. "He's a senile old fraud. Gavin, why are you listening to him? Look at his jacket. It smells like mothballs. He probably stole that wallet." She turned her phone camera toward Archer again. "Live stream, everyone. Look at this con artist trying to ruin our dinner. He attacked me." Archer slowly turned his head to look at the camera lens. He didn't blink. "You are broadcasting your own demise, young woman. I suggest you stop." "Or what?" Brock sneered, stepping forward to stand beside his wife. He was trying to regain control of the room physically, puffing out his chest. "You going to hit us with your cane? I bet I could buy you and sell you 10 times over." Archer chuckled. It was a dry, rattling sound. "Mr. van der Hoven, the only thing you have bought recently is a yacht you can't afford and a summer home in the Hamptons that is currently under a foreclosure notice." Brock froze. The color drained from his face so fast it looked like a magic trick. How do you know that?" "I know a great many things," Archer said. He turned his back on them, dismissing them as if they were nothing more than annoying insects. He looked at Sierra, who was still standing there, clutching the dirty napkins, trembling. "Sierra," Archer said gently, "please, take a seat." I can't, sir," Sierra stammered, looking terrified at Gavin. "Staff aren't allowed to sit in the dining room. It's grounds for immediate termination." "Gavin," Archer said without looking at the manager, "is Sierra allowed to sit?" Gavin was currently scrolling frantically on his phone. He had just pulled up the Google image search for Archer Galloway. The picture on the screen showed a man in a tuxedo accepting a philanthropy award. The man was younger, cleaner shaven, but the eyes, those piercing, intelligent blue eyes, were identical. Gavin felt his knees knock together. He had just ordered the owner of the company to clean up a mess on his knees. He had tried to evict the man who signed his paychecks. Yes, Gavin choked out. Yes, of course. She can sit, but she's dirty. Tiffany protested, pointing at the wine stains on Sierra's apron. She smells like alcohol. I don't want to eat next to the help. Then leave, Archer said simply. We are not leaving until we get our risotto, Tiffany shouted. And I want a refund. And I want her arrested for assaulting me with wine. Archer sighed. He walked over to the nearest empty table, table 5, the one by the window with the best view of the city lights. He pulled out a chair. Sit, Sierra. Sierra hesitated, then walked over. Her legs were shaking so bad she practically fell into the chair. She felt like she was in a dream or a nightmare. She looked at her hands, stained red. May I see the wine list? Archer asked, snapping his fingers. But he didn't snap them at a waiter. He snapped them at Gavin. Gavin jumped. Me? You are the general manager, are you not? Surely you know how to serve wine. Bring me the list. Gavin scurried to the podium, grabbed the leather book, and ran back, presenting it with trembling hands. Archer didn't even open it. The Chateau Margaux 2015, the same vintage these two wasted. That is $1,200. Sir, Gavin whispered. Put it on my tab. The one you're going to open. And bring 2 glasses. 2? One for me. And one for my guest, Sierra. She's on the clock, Gavin protested weakly, purely out of habit. Not anymore, Archer said. As of 2 minutes ago, I have promoted her. To what? To Executive Vice President of Customer Experience, Archer said, a twinkle in his eye. Her first job is to tell me exactly how you treat your staff. Gavin looked like he was about to vomit. He turned and ran toward the bar. Meanwhile, the restaurant had transformed. The silence of shock had been replaced by the murmur of intrigue. Diners were no longer eating. They were watching. Phones were out at every table. The hobo commanding the room had become the main event. Brock Vanderhoven leaned in close to his wife. Tiff, put the phone away. No, she hissed. I'm going to ruin him. I have 50,000 followers. Tiff, shut up, Brock whispered harshly. That's Galloway. The Galloway. If he really knows about the foreclosure, he's bluffing, Tiffany insisted, though her voice wavered. Look at his shoes, Brock. He's a nobody. Archer ignored them. He looked at Sierra across the table. Up close, he could see the dark circles under her eyes, the fraying collar of her uniform, the raw, red skin on her hands from scrubbing tables with harsh chemicals. You have a kind face, Sierra, Archer said softly. It is a rare thing in this building. I don't understand what's happening, Sierra whispered. Are you really him? I am. Archer nodded. I like to visit my investments anonymously. It's the only way to see the truth. If I come in a limousine with an entourage, everyone smiles. The floors are polished. The food is perfect. But if I come in looking like an old man on a fixed income, then I see the rot. He looked over Sierra's shoulder at Gavin, who was struggling to open the wine bottle at the bar because his hands were shaking so violently. And there is a lot of rot here, Archer noted. Please don't fire Gavin, Sierra said quickly. Archer raised an eyebrow. After what he just did to you? He made you kneel. I know, Sierra looked down. But he has kids. Twins. He talks about them sometimes in the break room. If he loses this job, Archer stared at her for a long moment. You are worried about the welfare of the man who tried to destroy your dignity. I know what it's like to be scared about money, Sierra said simply. I don't want anyone else to feel that. Archer leaned back. Mercy, he mused. That is a quality I haven't seen in a boardroom in 40 years. Gavin arrived with the wine. He poured it, spilling a few drops because of his nerves. He didn't offer a tasting. He just filled the glasses. Leave the bottle, Archer said. And go stand by Mr. and Mrs. Vanderhoven. They look like they need attention. Gavin swallowed hard and retreated to the center banquette, where Tiffany was now loudly complaining that her risotto was taking too long. Archer raised his glass. To dignity, he said. Sierra picked up the crystal glass. It felt foreign in her hand. She clinked it against his. To dignity. She took a sip. It tasted like velvet and blackberries. It tasted like a month of rent. Now, Archer said, setting his glass down. Let's discuss the entertainment for the evening. Entertainment? Yes. Archer gestured to the center of the room where Brock was sweating and Tiffany was berating a busboy. The dismantling of a facade. Watch closely, Sierra. This is a lesson in economics. The atmosphere in the restaurant had shifted from a dining room to a courtroom. The air was thick with impending judgment. Gavin was hovering near the Van der Hovens, trying to apologize for the delay in their food. The chef is preparing it personally. Mrs. Van der Hoven. Just another minute. It's been 20 minutes, Tiffany yelled. I'm starving. And I want another bottle of wine. This time, bring it yourself. Don't let the cleaning lady touch it. She gestured aggressively toward Sierra. Archer stood up again. He picked up his glass of wine and walked slowly toward the center table. The room went quiet again. There will be no more wine, Archer said calmly. Excuse me? Brock stood up again, his face regaining some of its bluster. I'm paying for it. I'll order whatever I want. Actually, Archer said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out his phone. I don't think you can pay for it. Are you saying I'm broke? Brock laughed, looking around the room for support. I'm wearing a $40,000 Rolex. Does this look broke to you? It looks like a desperate attempt to leverage credit, Archer replied. He tapped the screen of his phone. I just got off the phone with the Risk Assessment Division of Galloway Sovereign Bank. That is the bank that holds the mortgage on your commercial properties. Isn't it, Brock? Brock's eyes widened. That's private information? It is, Archer agreed. Unless you are the chairman of the board, which I am. And it seems, Brock, that you have missed your last 3 payments on the Van der Hoven Plaza downtown. A clerical error, Brock shouted, sweat now beading on his forehead. My accountant is handling it. And your personal credit cards? Archer continued, scrolling down. Maxed out. All of them. In fact, the system flagged a suspicious transaction just 20 minutes ago. A charge for a $5,000 coat? Tiffany gasped. My coat? I bought it this afternoon. On a card that was already $4,000 over the limit, Archer said. The bank allowed the transaction to go through as a courtesy because of your status. But I have just revoked that courtesy. You can't do that, Tiffany screamed. I can, Archer said. I just did. And since I am currently looking at your liquidity, or lack thereof, I am afraid I cannot accept your payment for dinner tonight. Not because I don't want your money, but because you don't have any. This is slander, Brock yelled. I'll sue you. With what lawyer? Archer asked calmly. Retainers cost money, Brock. Archer turned to Gavin. Mr. Moretti. Yes, Mr. Galloway? Gavin responded, jumping to attention. Run their card. Now, sir, run the card they gave you for the tab, for the wine they spilled, for the appetizers they ate. Run it. Gavin looked at Brock. Brock looked like a cornered animal. He didn't want to hand over the card. Give him the card, Brock, Archer commanded. Slowly, with a shaking hand, Brock reached into his jacket and pulled out a heavy, black metal credit card, the ultimate symbol of wealth. He handed it to Gavin. Gavin ran to the portable terminal on the side station. He swiped the card. The machine beeped. Processing. The room held its breath. The seconds stretched out. Beep. Gavin looked at the small screen. He looked up at Brock, then at Archer. Well? Archer asked. It says. Gavin swallowed. It says, declined. Pick up card. A collective gasp went through the dining room. Someone at a nearby table actually laughed. Try it again, Brock shouted. The chip is faulty. I can enter the numbers manually, Gavin offered, trying to be helpful but only digging the hole deeper. He typed in the numbers. Processing. Beep. Declined, Gavin read. Code 05. Do not honor. Tiffany dropped into her seat, burying her face in her hands. The facade was gone. The faux fur, the diamonds, The attitude, it was all built on a mountain of debt that had just collapsed in front of 50 witnesses. It seems, Archer said, his voice ringing clear, that the riffraff tonight is not the man in the tweed jacket, nor the hard-working woman serving the food. It is the couple who orders wine they cannot afford. Brock slumped. The arrogance evaporated, leaving behind a small, scared man. Mr. Galloway. Please. We can work this out. I have a deal closing next week. The market doesn't wait for next week, Brock, Archer said, and neither does this restaurant. Archer turned to the security guard, who stood by the front door, a large man named David who had been watching the proceedings with crossed arms. David, Archer said. Yes, sir? Please escort Mr. and Mrs. Vanderhoven to the exit. And keep the card. The bank requires it be destroyed. No. That's my black card, Brock cried as David stepped forward. It's plastic, Brock, Archer said. Actually, it's titanium. But right now, it's worthless. David placed a heavy hand on Brock's shoulder. Let's go, sir. Don't make a scene. I'm not leaving without my coat. Tiffany sobbed, clutching the wine-stained white fur. Take it, Archer said. It's ruined anyway. Much like your reputation. The walk of shame was excruciatingly slow. Brock and Tiffany Vanderhoven, the king and queen of Chicago real estate, were marched out of the Velvet Room, past tables of diners who were no longer filming with envy, but with pity and amusement. As the heavy wooden doors swung shut behind them, the restaurant erupted, not with shouting, but with applause. It started at one table, then spread. People clapped, a few cheered. It was the release of tension, the satisfaction of seeing the bullies get what they deserved. Archer didn't bow. He didn't smile. He just walked back to table 5 and sat down across from Sierra. Sierra was staring at him with wide eyes. You really destroyed them. I didn't destroy them, Sierra, Archer said, picking up his wine glass. They destroyed themselves. I just turned on the lights. He took a sip of wine. Now, let's talk about you. Sierra tensed. Me? Yes. We have a problem. What problem? Sierra asked, fear creeping back into her voice. You have a manager. Archer gestured toward Gavin, who was standing by the POS system, looking like a man awaiting the guillotine, who is incompetent, cruel, and lacks the basic empathy required to run a lemonade stand, let alone a fine dining establishment. And I have a vacancy. A vacancy? I need a new general manager for the Velvet Room, Archer said. Sierra laughed nervously. Mr. Galloway, I'm a waitress. I don't have a degree. I don't know how to run a restaurant. You know the most important thing, Archer said intensely. You know what it feels like to be on the bottom. You know that a smudge on a glass isn't a crime. You know that staff are human beings, not robots. I can teach you Excel spreadsheets, Sierra. I can teach you inventory management. I cannot teach a person how to have a soul. You either have it, or you don't. He pointed his fork at Gavin. He doesn't have it. So? Sierra's heart pounded. You're firing him? That depends, Archer said. I am going to let you decide. Me? Yes. This is your first executive decision. Gavin Moretti. Does he stay, or does he go? Sierra looked at Gavin. He was watching them. He knew they were talking about him. He looked pathetic. He looked small. She thought about the way he snapped his fingers, the way he mocked her shoes, the way he forced her to her knees. But she also thought about the twins he mentioned. She thought about the fear in his eyes when the credit card was declined. She knew that fear. Sierra started. Archer waited, his blue eyes studying her. I think he should stay, Sierra said. Archer lowered his fork. He looked genuinely surprised. Explain. If you fire him, he learns nothing, Sierra said, her voice gaining strength. He just becomes a victim in his own head. He'll blame you. He'll blame me. He'll go to another restaurant and be the same bully. And if he stays? If he stays, Sierra said, looking at Gavin, he stays as a waiter. A junior waiter. On the lunch shift, minimum wage, a slow smile spread across Archer's face. It started at the corners of his mouth and reached his eyes. Poetic, Archer whispered. Absolute justice. Let him work for me, Sierra said. Let him wear the cheap shoes. Let him clean the spills. If he can handle it, maybe he can earn his way back up. If he quits, that's on him. Archer raised his glass again. Sierra Hughes. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership. He waved Gavin over. Gavin approached, looking like he was walking to the gallows. Mr. Galloway? I just want to say, I am so sorry. I was under pressure. Save it, Archer said. I am not firing you, Gavin. Gavin let out a breath that sounded like a tire deflating. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. I promise. I will. However, Archer interrupted. I am demoting you. Demoting? Yes. Effective immediately, you are a trainee server. Your pay is reduced to the state minimum for tipped employees. Gavin's jaw dropped. Trainee? But I run this place. Not anymore, Archer said. Meet your new general manager. Archer pointed at Sierra. Gavin looked at Sierra. The girl he had humiliated. The girl whose shoes he had mocked. Her? Gavin whispered. She has better instincts than you, Archer said. And she has shown you mercy. I wanted to fire you. She convinced me to give you a chance to learn. Report to her at 9 a.m. tomorrow for your uniform fitting. You'll be wearing the polyester vest. Gavin looked at Sierra. For the first time, he didn't see a servant, he saw his boss. Yes, Mr. Galloway, Gavin said quietly. Then, turning to Sierra, he swallowed his pride, a bitter pill that choked him. Yes, Miss Hughes. That's Sierra to my friends, Sierra said coolly. But on the floor, it's Miss Hughes. Go clean table 4, Gavin. It's dirty. As Gavin walked away to fetch a rag, Archer let out a loud, hearty laugh. Brilliant, Archer said. Now, Sierra. How about we order that risotto? I'm starving. 3 months had passed since the night the glass castle shattered. The Velvet Room was still the same building, mahogany walls, crystal chandeliers, the scent of lilies, but the soul of the place had undergone a transplant. Sierra Hughes sat in the general manager's office. It was a room she used to fear entering. Now, her name was on the door in gold lettering. The desk, once covered in Gavin's vanity magazines and hair products, was now stacked with inventory sheets, scheduling grids, and invoices. She rubbed her temples. Being the boss wasn't a fairy tale. It was war. The kitchen staff, a brigade of hardened culinary mercenaries, had tested her every day for the first month. They would forget orders or slow down ticket times just to see if she would crack. She hadn't. She had put on an apron, walked onto the hotline, and expedited food alongside them until they respected her. But the biggest thorn in her side wasn't the chef. It was Gavin. Gavin Moretti had not taken his demotion well. He was currently a junior server, a title Archer had invented specifically to torment him. He wore the polyester vest that didn't breathe. He polished silverware. He fetched ketchup for tourists, and he was plotting. Sierra watched him on the security monitor. He was in the server station, whispering to the new bartender. Gavin's eyes were always darting around, looking for leverage, looking for a mistake. He wasn't working to redeem himself. He was working to reclaim his throne. Sierra? She looked up. It was Emily, the hostess. The mayor is here, Emily said, looking pale. Mayor Thompson. With a party of 10. They didn't have a reservation, but I'll handle it, Sierra said, standing up and smoothing her blazer. Set them up in the private dining room. Open the partition. This was the test. Mayor Thompson was notoriously difficult. If tonight went wrong, the reviews would be scathing. Sierra walked onto the floor. She greeted the mayor with a warmth that Gavin never possessed. She navigated the seating arrangement flawlessly. She got the drink orders started. But as she walked past the server station, she heard a crash. She spun around. Gavin was standing over a tray of shattered champagne flutes. Expensive crystal lay in shards on the floor. Champagne pooled around his shoes. Clumsy, Gavin sneered, looking not at the floor, but directly at Sierra. He hadn't dropped it by accident. He had dropped it on purpose, right in the middle of the service path. "Clean it up, Gavin," Sierra said, keeping her voice low. "I can't," Gavin replied loudly, making sure the mayor's table could hear. "I hurt my back. Workers' comp issue." "You'll have to do it, boss." He was trying to humiliate her. He wanted the mayor to see the general manager on her knees, scrubbing the floor, just as she had done for the Van der Hovens. He wanted to break her authority. The dining room went quiet. The staff froze. They knew the history. They knew Gavin was baiting her. Sierra looked at the mess. Then she looked at Gavin. She saw the smirk he was trying to hide. "You're right, Gavin," Sierra said clearly. "If you are injured, you shouldn't be working. Go home." Gavin's smirk faltered. "What?" "Go home," Sierra repeated. "Clock out. I can't have injured staff on the floor. It's a liability." I can work," Gavin backpedaled. He realized he had overplayed his hand. If he went home, he lost the tips from the mayor's table. "No," Sierra said firmly. David, the security guard, the same one who had escorted the Van der Hovens out, stepped forward. "Escort Mr. Morty to the locker room so he can change, and then to his car. He is injured." "I'm not injured," Gavin snapped, panic setting in. "I was joking. I just dropped the tray." "So you lied about an injury to avoid work during a VIP rush?" Sierra asked. Her voice wasn't angry, it was disappointed. "That's worse, Gavin." "Sierra, please," Gavin hissed. "I need this shift. My rent is due." Sierra looked at him. She remembered the rent. She remembered the fear. She picked up a broom and dustpan from the corner. "I will clean this up," Sierra said to the room, "because a leader doesn't mind getting their hands dirty. But you, Gavin, are done for the night. We will discuss your future tomorrow." She swept up the glass. She didn't kneel in shame. She worked with dignity. When she stood up, the mayor began to clap. Gavin watched, his face burning red. He wasn't humiliated because she yelled at him. He was humiliated because she was better than him. Later that night, after the rush, Sierra sat in the back office, counting the cash drawer. She was exhausted. Her phone rang. It was 11:30 p.m. A late-night call was never good news. She picked it up. "Hello? Miss Hughes? This is Street Jude's hospital. It's your mother." The stack of cash fell from Sierra's hand. "What happened?" "Her kidneys are failing, Sierra. The dialysis isn't working anymore. She's gone into septic shock. You need to come now." Sierra dropped the phone. She grabbed her purse and ran. She burst out of the office and into the kitchen. "I have to go," she yelled to the closing staff. "Lock up! Someone lock up!" She ran out the back door, into the rain, leaving the safe open, the cash on the desk, and the restaurant vulnerable. In the shadows of the hallway, Gavin watched her leave. He saw the open office door. He saw the stack of cash on the desk, thousands of dollars. He walked into the office. He looked at the money. He looked at the security camera, which he knew had a blind spot in this corner. He reached out his hand. Sierra sat in the back office, the hum of the closing restaurant barely registering over her exhaustion. It was 11:30 p.m. She was midway through counting. The cash drawer stacks of hundreds and 20s lay exposed on the desk when her phone shattered the silence. "Miss Hughes? This is Street Jude's. It's your mother." The blood froze in Sierra's veins. What happened? Septic shock. Her kidneys have shut down completely. If we don't operate within hours, she won't make it. Panic, cold and absolute, took over. Sierra dropped the phone. She didn't think about the cash. She didn't think about the safe. She grabbed her purse and sprinted out the back door into the pouring rain, leaving the office door wide open and thousands of dollars sitting on the desk. In the shadows of the hallway, Gavin watched her flee. He walked into the empty office. He looked at the open safe. He looked at the unguarded money. He glanced at the security camera, knowing exactly where the blind spot was. Slowly, he reached out his hand. The hospital waiting room was a purgatory of fluorescent lights and terror. Sierra sat with her head in her hands, her uniform soaked. She had money now, but she didn't have a miracle. She couldn't buy a kidney on a Tuesday night. Sierra. She looked up. Archer Galloway stood there, shaking a wet umbrella. He traded his tweed for a long black trench coat, looking every bit the titan of industry he was. "Mr. Galloway?" She choked out. "She's dying. I can't save her." Archer sat beside her, his presence calming the storm in her mind. "Do you trust me?" "Yes." "Good." Archer checked his watch. "I made a call to Zurich. There was a matching donor organ in Boston intended for a recipient with administrative influence rather than medical necessity. I have adjusted the logistics." Sierra stared at him. "Adjusted?" "My private jet landed at O'Hare 10 minutes ago with the organ. The surgical team is prepping now." He took her trembling hand. "I've spent 50 years buying companies, Sierra. Tonight, I bought time." "Why?" she sobbed, collapsing into him. "Why do this for me?" "Because," Archer said softly, "you are the only person I've met who would clean up broken glass to save the dignity of a man who tried to destroy you. A good heart is the only asset that doesn't depreciate." The surgery was a success. 3 days later, with Ellen stable and smiling, reality crashed back down on Sierra. She had left the restaurant unlocked. She had left the cash out. She drove to the Velvet Room with a pit in her stomach, expecting police tape and a termination letter. She had repaid Archer's kindness with negligence. She walked into her office, bracing for the empty desk. The cash was gone. Her knees buckled. She had been robbed. Then, she saw the note resting on a bank deposit slip. "Sierra, I saw you run out. I didn't know what happened, but I knew you wouldn't leave the safe open. I counted the drawer, $4,250, deposited it in the night drop, and locked up. I hope you're okay." "Gavin." Tears pricked her eyes again, but this time from relief. Gavin hadn't stolen a dime. He had protected her. Sierra walked onto the floor. The lunch shift was prepping. Gavin was at the polishing station, wiping down wine glasses, his shoulders hunched in the cheap polyester vest. "Gavin," she called out. He flinched, looking terrified. "Is everything okay?" "The deposit?" "I saw it," Sierra said, walking up to him. The staff watched, holding their breath. Sierra took the cloth from his hand. "Stop polishing." "Am I fired?" Gavin whispered. "I know I overstepped." "No," Sierra said firmly. "You're promoted." Gavin blinked. "What?" "I need an assistant manager. Someone I can trust with the keys when my world falls apart." "You trust me?" Gavin asked, his voice cracking. "After everything I did to you?" "You didn't take the money when no one was watching," Sierra said. "Character isn't who you are when you're winning, Gavin. It's what you do when the lights are off. Go put on a suit. You look ridiculous in that vest." 6 months later, the Velvet Room was named Chicago's Restaurant of the Year. Archer sat at table 5, enjoying his potato leek soup. Across from him sat Ellen, healthy and vibrant. They watched the floor. Sierra stood at the helm, radiant in a tailored suit, greeting the city's elite with genuine warmth. Beside her, Gavin directed the flow of service with a quiet, humble confidence. "You saved them, Archer," Ellen said, watching the pair work in perfect sync. "No," Archer smiled, raising his water glass. "I just gave them the opportunity to save themselves." She taught him mercy, and he taught her trust. He took a sip, watching the waitress who became a queen and the bully who learned to serve. "And that," Archer whispered, "is the best return on investment I have ever made." And that is how a spilled glass of wine exposed a tyrant and revealed a queen. Sierra proved that true power isn't about how loud you can scream, or how much money you have in the bank. It's about how you treat people when they have nothing to offer you. Archer Galloway showed us that sometimes, the biggest heroes are the ones quietly watching from the corner. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. It really helps get these stories out to more people. And if you want more tales of karma, justice, and redemption, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. What would you have done if you were in Sierra's shoes? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And remember, be kind, because you never know who is watching.